Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. I'm 30 years old, and my sister Lily is 25. We grew up in a single-parent household. Our mom worked tirelessly to provide for us, taking on multiple jobs to keep food on the table and a roof over our heads. Despite her efforts, money was always tight, and we learned early on that nothing in life came easily. I've always admired my mom for her strength and dedication, and her sacrifices taught me the value of hard work. As the older sibling, I felt a sense of responsibility to help lighten her load. When I was a teenager, I took on part-time jobs to cover my own expenses and contribute to household bills. It wasn't always easy balancing school and work, but I was proud to do my part. Lily, on the other hand, had a very different experience. She was the baby of the family, naturally charming and academically gifted. She excelled in school and had big dreams of becoming a psychologist. Our mom often said Lily was destined for great things, and I wholeheartedly believed it. I wanted to support her in any way I could, even if it meant making sacrifices of my own. After high school, I went to community college while working part-time jobs to pay for tuition and living expenses. Eventually, I earned a degree in IT and landed a stable full-time job. It wasn't glamorous, but it provided financial stability and gave me the tools to build a secure future. Lily, meanwhile, was accepted into a prestigious university to study psychology. She was ecstatic, but the cost of attending was daunting. While she received scholarships and financial aid, they didn't cover everything. Tuition, books, and living expenses were significant, and our mom couldn't afford to contribute much. Seeing how much this opportunity meant to her, I stepped in. I told Lily I would help cover her education and living expenses so she could focus on her studies without the stress of financial insecurity. To make this work, I took on a second job, working evenings and weekends at a grocery store, in addition to my full-time IT position. It was exhausting, but I believed in Lily's potential and wanted her to succeed. For the next 4 years, I paid her rent, covered shortfalls in tuition, and sent her money for groceries and other necessities. I worked myself to the bone, sacrificing my own social life and personal goals to ensure she had what she needed. In total, I spent tens of thousands of dollars on her education. Lily graduated last year with her degree in psychology. I attended her graduation ceremony, and it was one of the proudest moments of my life. She thanked me for everything I'd done for her, and I felt like all my sacrifices had been worth it. After graduation, Lily landed a job at a mental health clinic. It wasn't a high-paying position, but it was a great start in her field. I continued paying her rent for the first year after graduation because she said she needed time to get on her feet. However, as the months went by, I started noticing that Lily's spending habits didn't align with her modest income. She moved into a luxury apartment, started buying designer clothes, and frequently posted pictures of fancy dinners, weekend getaways, and expensive gadgets on social media. While I was happy to see her enjoying life, I couldn't help but feel uneasy. It seemed like she was prioritizing luxury over financial stability. I considered having a conversation with her about budgeting and saving, but I hesitated because I didn't want to come across as controlling or judgmental. A few weeks ago, we had a family dinner at our mom's house. It was meant to be a casual gathering to catch up with everyone. During the meal, the conversation turned to careers and work-life balance. Someone asked me about my jobs, and I mentioned that I was still working 2 jobs, my full-time IT position and my part-time grocery store gig. Lily, who had been talking about her recent shopping spree, smirked and said, "Wow, 2 jobs. That's so sad. You're such a loser for working so much. A successful person shouldn't have to work multiple jobs to make ends meet. You're just not business-minded at all, which is sad." The room went silent. Everyone stared at me, waiting for my reaction. I was stunned. After everything I'd done for her, sacrificing my time, energy, and money, she had the audacity to insult me in front of our family. I managed to stay calm and replied, "Well, one of those jobs helped pay for your education, so maybe don't bite the hand that feeds you." Instead of apologizing, Lily rolled her eyes and muttered, "You're just obsessed with being a martyr." Her dismissive attitude was the final straw for me. I didn't say anything else during the dinner, but I couldn't stop replaying her words in my head. The next day, I called Lily to tell her I was done paying her rent. I explained that her behavior at the dinner was hurtful and disrespectful, and I felt like she didn't appreciate everything I'd done for her. I told her it was time for her to take full responsibility for her own life and finances. Lily was shocked. She immediately tried to backpedal, saying she didn't mean what she said and that she was just joking. She said she thought I needed a kick in the butt because I can do so much better and earn so much more money with my skills. She begged me to reconsider, claiming she couldn't afford her apartment without my help. I stood my ground and told her my decision was final. I reminded her that she had a degree, a job, and the tools to build a successful life for herself. It was time for her to budget responsibly and live within her means. Without my financial support, Lily had to break her lease and move into a smaller, less expensive apartment. She's also had to cut back on her extravagant spending, which she's been complaining about nonstop on social media. She's posted vague, passive-aggressive messages like, "It's funny how people who claim to support you are the first to abandon you," and "Some people just love to tear you down." She's also told our extended family that I cut her off over a harmless joke and left her struggling to make ends meet. Our mom is caught in the middle. She understands why I'm upset, but wishes I had given Lily a second chance. She worries that this rift will permanently damage our sibling relationship. Meanwhile, Lily has been giving me the silent treatment, and the tension in our family has been unbearable. I'm struggling to reconcile my love for Lily with the hurt and betrayal I feel. For years, I worked myself to the bone to support her dreams. I sacrificed my own comfort, social life, and financial stability because I believed in her potential and wanted her to succeed. For her to turn around and call me a loser in front of our family felt like a slap in the face. It wasn't just the insult, it was the complete lack of gratitude and respect for everything I'd done for her. I don't regret pulling the plug on her rent payments. I believe it's time for her to stand on her own 2 feet and learn how to manage her finances responsibly. But I do wonder if I could have handled the situation differently. Maybe I should have given her a warning or talked to her privately instead of cutting her off so abruptly. Part of me feels guilty for how harshly I responded, but another part of me feels like she needed a wake-up call. Reddit. Am I the a-hole for stopping my sister's rent payments after she insulted me at a family dinner? Lily calling OP a loser after all the sacrifices he made for her is not only disrespectful, but outright cruel. OP worked tirelessly, juggling 2 jobs, to give her a life and education that she wouldn't have had otherwise. The fact that she's now living in a luxury apartment and indulging in an extravagant lifestyle is entirely because of OP's efforts. For her to turn around and insult OP, the very person who enabled her success, is beyond ungrateful. Cutting off rent payments was the right move. It's clear she's lost sight of the value of hard work and needs a wake-up call. If she wants to maintain her current lifestyle, it's time she learns how to fund it herself. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Not the a-hole. The entitlement Lily displayed is honestly shocking. You worked 2 jobs, sacrificed your own time and energy, and gave up so much to ensure she could achieve her dreams. Instead of being grateful, she ridiculed you in front of your family. That's not just rude, it's a betrayal of everything you did for her. It's especially galling that she seems to equate her flashy lifestyle with success, while looking down on the hard work that actually created that foundation for her. People like Lily need to understand that nothing comes for free, and it's time for her to take responsibility for her own life. Cutting her off wasn't just justified, it was necessary. Not the a-hole. I can understand how hard this decision must have been for you, especially given how much you care for your sister and the sacrifices you've made over the years. But the way Lily spoke to you at that dinner was completely unacceptable. It wasn't just a joke. It was a reflection of her lack of gratitude and understanding of everything you've done for her. By cutting her off, you're not being cruel. You're giving her an opportunity to learn about responsibility and how to stand on her own 2 feet. It might feel harsh right now, but it's likely the best thing for her in the long run. She has a degree and a job. She's more than capable of figuring this out without relying on you. Not the a-hole. What you did for Lily, working 2 jobs to fund her education and support her lifestyle, was extraordinary. That's not something many siblings would do, and it shows how deeply you care about her. For her to turn around and mock you, calling you a loser after everything you sacrificed, is absolutely unacceptable. Her behavior at that dinner wasn't just a casual insult. It was a display of complete disregard for your efforts. Cutting off her rent payments was the right decision. She's an adult now, and it's time for her to take responsibility for her own life. Don't let her guilt trip you into thinking you're the bad guy here. You've already gone above and beyond for her. She'll learn to appreciate you eventually, even if it takes time. My 28 male. Grandparents only have 2 grandchildren, me and my sister, 24. My dad has a sister who never had kids or married, and a brother who just got married for the first time at 54. With his new marriage, he gained 3 stepsons, 25, 21, and 19. All 3 are not thrilled with my uncle's marriage to their mother, and have had very little to do with my uncle since the wedding, even less to do with the rest of our family. I've never even met them. My grandparents have moved in with my aunt because they're getting older and they recently sold their house. Though I did not know until recently, my grandparents' plan was always, when they died or were ready to relocate, to sell their house and split the money between me and my sister, their only grandchildren. They recently did so, and the house sold for nearly $300,000, giving both me and my sister a sizable amount of money. This is great because my sister can pay off her college entirely, and I am able to pay for my upcoming wedding and honeymoon, as well as a down payment on a new house. We should even have enough to stock a little away for the future. Needless to say, we were thrilled and immensely grateful. A few days ago, I got a call from my uncle's wife. She claims that her sons are a little hurt that they were not getting a share of the money, since they are now grandchildren as well. I thought this was kind of dumb, since I know for a fact that 2 of them have never even met my grandparents, and I'm really not sure about the third. But now they want to be considered grandchildren because they get money. They've never tried to be a part of the family before. I asked my grandparents, and they said it's our money for my sister and I to share with them if we'd like, but basically, there's a reason they were left out. Obviously, even this large an amount of money is less when split 5 ways instead of 2, and we both really already had plans for the money. So we're leaning towards saying no. Am I the a-hole? So not the a-hole. I can't even imagine being the new aunt and calling you. What nerve! You and your sister should move forward with your plans and not think about this phone call. Not the a-hole. They're not blood. They've made no effort to form a relationship, and it's your grandparents' money. Therefore, if splitting it between you and your sister is what they want to do, then that's their decision. I'd respond by asking what their names are. Power move. Not the a-hole. Being a family is neither a bloodline nor marriage certificates. It's a privilege, and it needs to be earned. They clearly haven't done so. Basically, 3 strangers want your grandparents' money because someone they know has signed a paper. Do not give them anything. Me, male 31, and my girlfriend, female 24, have a great relationship. She has a son, male 6, from a previous relationship. We have been together for 5 years and lived together for 4. Her son lives with us full-time. I have a great relationship with her son, and I do all the fatherly activities and support him as if he was my own, as his bio-father, male 33, is a deadbeat. Bio-father does not pay support and will probably never contribute financially towards his son. 3 years ago, I told my girlfriend that she should start saving some money for her son's future. She does not make a lot of money, so I told her she can take some money from our checking account. I pay 80%, she 20% into this account each month, and set this aside for his future. And hopefully when he is older, he will have $30,000 to $50,000 USD to give him a good start in life as an adult. She never did this, even though I told her many times to do so. Now, girlfriend is pregnant, and I plan to set up accounts for both her child and the one we will be having together, and put aside an equal amount of money each month that they will be given when they are ready to start their adult lives. Girlfriend thinks this was a great idea, and said we would have to compensate her son for the 6 years of savings that he did not get previous to her getting pregnant with our mutual child. I said no. She had years to start saving money for him and chose not to do so. I will not be making a larger contribution to any of the kids, even if that means my bio child will have more savings when becoming an adult. Am I the a-hole for standing firm on this, as she had years to save money from our mutual account, but chose not to do so? Info. We live in a country with pretty much free everything. This is important because people don't save for their kids at all. Anything we save for the kids would be used for a down payment for a first home, or something else expensive young adults want, but don't need, like an arts degree abroad. Not the a-hole. You're setting up accounts for both children where the same amount of money will be deposited. That's fair and not favoring one child over the other, which is admirable. You also gave her the option to do it for her son out of your joint bank account, and she chose not to. That's on her. Not the a-hole. When I read the title, I thought, well, that's crappy. Contribute to both children equally. You accepted stepchild as your own, so they should get equal treatment. But that's the thing. You are giving them equal treatment. You have been telling her to take some of your shared money and start saving for the stepson for years now, and she hasn't done it. Now that there's a second child on the way, you have taken it upon yourself to do what she has been procrastinating to do. Could you have done those years ago when you told her to and saw that she wasn't going to? Probably. But you didn't, and you didn't have to. Now you are doing the same thing for both of the kids. You are giving both the kids equal treatment. I have 3 kids, my stepson Sammy, and my 2 daughters who came after him, Claire and Joe. Sammy was always a wild child and got himself into a lot of trouble at school. He fell into a lot of destructive behaviors and ended up in prison for some years for aggravated theft. He had a lot of the usual problems associated with that lifestyle, until he met my daughter-in-law. My daughter-in-law is the sweetest girl in the world, and I love her like I love the rest of my children. She saved my son and gave him a new lease on life. He is a family man who works a humble and hard-working job. His joy is his wife and his healthy hobbies now, and they recently told me they're trying for a baby, which just makes my heart soar. He is as healthy and good-hearted as any man can be now, and I'm so proud of them both. My daughters, on the other hand, have always been successful, book-smart, and I believe as kids we unconsciously favored them because of that in some ways. I certainly don't think we ever intended to, and we've apologized to Sammy in his adulthood. But overall, the girls got a lot more than Sammy did. That's not to say he wasn't loved and adored, but in adulthood, I now realize I should have supported my son more than I did. They are also financially very successful off their own backs, where Sammy and his wife aren't. Now, my late grandmother left my own late mother a ring that was valued in the thousands of dollars. Obviously, that's a huge amount, and I've been talking candidly about giving it away to one of my kids while I'm alive, to see them enjoy and wear it. My daughters lately have been bickering over and over as to whose collection it's going to go into, where my daughter-in-law, who was present, stayed silent because she assumed she wasn't part of my thoughts. Her humbleness and sweetness inspires me, and has for a very long time. So I decided I wanted her to have it. I made my daughters aware of the decision, and they both said it was fine. And I have not seen my daughter-in-law take off the ring once, and the amount of pleasure my son received from me honoring his wife that way made me feel it was all worth it. He actually thanked me over and over, not to mention the huge shock on my daughter-in-law's face when I told her I wanted her to have it. However, my daughters have now been leaving snippy remarks that I should have just given the ring to one of them, and that I'm rewarding Sammy's bad behavior after all, because his wife got something for reining him in. Am I the a-hole here? Not the a-hole. It's your ring, and you can give it to whomever you want, and it sounds like this girl is deserving of this over your daughters. I had the same thing happen to me. My grandparents, who I've always been really close with, gifted me their wedding rings when I got engaged, and my sister, who was already married, got annoyed with me. I felt terrible, which sucked because it was supposed to be a happy time. Don't let your daughters ruin this and give the ring to your daughter-in-law. It's an extremely kind thing to do. No judgment, but if I'm being brutally honest, it kinda sounds like you're fantasizing about your daughter-in-law being the child you were never capable of raising due to your own parenting mistakes. She also gives her son no credit whatsoever for his comeback, instead saying it was all her daughter-in-law. Not to mention, she admits to favoring her other daughters when they were growing up. I'm pretty sure she is doing it to help her conscience, knowing she is probably a huge part of why her son turned out poorly. She is using her daughter-in-law as a makeup for her poor parenting. Frankly, OP sounds like she isn't owning up to that very much. What a slap in the face to have your parent who favored your siblings apologize for that, and then say the only reason you recovered is because of your partner. Yes, the a-hole. Everyone will probably say not the a-hole, because your property, do with it what you want. But I'm assuming both your daughters knew and cared about your mother. It makes sense that they would have an emotional attachment to a familial ring, and you just gave it away to someone who didn't even know either your grandmother or mother. To her, it's just a pretty ring. Also, your grandmother gave it to her daughter, who gave it to her daughter, so it's been passed down to the daughter. I know you love her as much as your own kid, but she is not your biological daughter who you raised. You put your son's wife's feelings over your own biological kids. I'd be pretty upset if my mother showed that she saw her daughter-in-law as more of a daughter than me. You even say in a comment that you knew you'd enjoy seeing the daughter-in-law wear it more. That's clear favoritism. I get that you think this woman is a saint for saving your wild child, but you're hurting your relationship with your own daughters and their relationship with their sister-in-law. I, 53 female, have a bio son Josh, 28, and a stepson Tom, 25. I married my current husband Steve 13 years ago. My deceased husband left Josh and I well provided for. After his death, I placed the house under both mine and Josh's name. Steve and I keep our finances separate. Josh graduated from med school at the top of his class and just finished up his residency. He married his girlfriend Leah after graduating med school. Leah was left some money and a house by her great aunt. They started doing cosmetic upgrades on the house, but then found out about the electrical and plumbing issues. Leah learned she was pregnant about this time. Josh was working 12-hour shifts at the hospital. His shift ended at midnight. He was worried about Leah being alone in a construction site. My home has a self-contained in-law suite. I offered them the suite and finally told him that he owns half the house when he offered to pay rent. Josh insisted upon paying the property taxes and insurance. Tom stated that he wanted the suite after I told him and my husband that Josh and Leah were moving in. Tom has never paid any rent, despite having a decent-paying job. I thought my son's need was greater. Leah adjusted her hours to align with Josh's. She works remotely. She always prepares a nice light meal for herself and Josh after finishing work. She is an excellent cook. I am not. Last Friday was the last day of Josh's residency as well as the last day of work for Leah. She planned to use PTO until she gave birth. Tom has a new girlfriend, Bets. I don't care for her much. She encourages him to drink. Tom is not an alcoholic, but he can be a mean drunk. An incident occurred about 2 years ago, and I told him he would have to move out should it ever happen again. Typically, they go back to her place after tying one on. But last Friday, they came to our house and followed the delicious smells emanating from the suite. They burst in on Leah and demanded food. As she opened the fridge, Tom pushed her aside and began taking out the food she had prepared. Beth started opening the basket of baby presents that her coworkers had sent. Leah kept asking them to stop. Tom tossed the cake she had made on the floor when he found out it contained cherries. Josh arrived right in the middle of this. There was a huge fight which only stopped when Leah's water broke. He rushed her to the hospital, and 5 hours later, I had a beautiful baby granddaughter. Once Tom dragged himself out of bed the next morning, I told him that I expected him out in 30 days. He started shouting at me, saying that he should have been given the suite in the first place, and not my precious son. He stormed out, and we have not heard from him since. My husband is very upset with me for kicking him out, citing my favoritism towards my son, i.e., giving them the suite, as the reason for this outburst. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. This particular event doesn't sound like favoritism. It sounds like you reacting to an escalated situation you have no desire to revisit. OP has been more than generous towards stepson for far too long. Even if John wasn't a part owner, it's clear he would be staying in the suite temporarily. If stepson had that kind of space, he would never move out. OP, you are not the a-hole. If your husband can't get on board, it's time to evaluate if this marriage is worth the headache of dealing with the mean drunk for the rest of your days. Oh, hell no, not the a-hole. Tom and Bets are damn lucky that Leah didn't press charges for assault. He needs to grow up, and your husband needs to grow up and stop enabling him. In my opinion, husband needs to leave with Tom. Not the a-hole. Does your husband know that Josh is actually half owner of the house that he and his son have been living in? Josh should install a lock in the in-law suite to keep out unwanted guests. I wouldn't even give Tom 30 days to find a new place. He hasn't been paying rent, so he has no tenants' rights. I would get security cameras installed as well if you have any concern about Tom returning in order to do anyone or anything harm. And if your husband doesn't like it, tell him he's welcome to join Tom wherever he ends up living. So, I have a stepson, 26 male, with my husband of 7 years. After college, he moved to New York City to work in marketing. He has lived in an apartment with two of his partners paying around $1.2K a month, but starting in June, July, they have stopped paying all rent. They thought they could get away with it because of the eviction moratorium during the virus, even though he was still earning an income, and one of his partners, lawyer, was a high earner who could have easily afforded the rent each month. Nonetheless, he told us that they weren't paying rent because he was convinced the government would cancel rent before the end of the year. Unsurprisingly, their landlord has been going nuts and is now threatening to sue them for back rent and evict them starting next year. It's not looking like any rent will be canceled, and stepson's high-earning partner also left them suddenly and is now unreachable. So now he is freaking out and wants us to cover the amount they owe on rent, about $6,000. I am fuming. They claim they've spent the money already and have nothing in savings. He's coming to us begging for money because he says he'll be evicted and homeless in the middle of winter otherwise. My husband has a soft spot and wants to loan this money knowing we'll never get it back realistically. I'm less lenient and have been pushing back. However, stepson has gotten the sense that I'm the resistant one and has blown up at his dad, accusing him of putting his spouse over his children. I am stuck in the middle and am wondering if it's easier just to give in than to keep fighting. Husband and I are both high earners and can't afford this rent bailout, but I honestly am just sick of endorsing stepson's wasteful life decisions. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to pay for stepson's back rent, thus letting him get evicted and possibly sued starting next year? Not the a-hole. What a crappy, selfish group of individuals. Good for you for holding your ground on this. They deserve every second of stress this causes. Exactly. The three wise guys thought they would take advantage of the rent moratorium that was created for those folks who had lost their job or experienced reduced hours and/or wages, not for entitled brats who had the money to pay their rent but decided they wanted a free ride. I would not give him the money, as this might be a great lesson to learn for him. Maybe it might teach him to be thankful of what he has and not what he doesn't. I remember an old saying of my mama's. I cried because I had no shoes, until I saw a man with no feet. No, not the a-hole. He had the money for the rent, and he decided to just not pay. What the hell did he imagine would happen? The consequences of not paying rent are not having a home. Bailing him out won't help. It's not like he got into trouble because he couldn't afford it, lost his job, had a big emergency thing to pay for, like hospital bills. He just decided not to pay. He's an a-hole.